All right, here we go. So fitness anarchy. So I'm going to let you guys know a little bit about myself because that's going to teach you about expanders at the end, and you'll be able to see where your fitness journey based on mine. So I'm Sandy. I'm 46 years old. I have 3 children. I did not grow up with exercise being part of my life. I did not grow up with a healthy lifestyle, I wouldn't say. I did have a decent nutrition foundation growing up. But in school, I didn't play sports. I wasn't sporty. I wasn't athletic. I was a drinker, a smoker, and a midnight toker. I had no foundation for fitness or wellness. In fact, I didn't find movement until my late 20s when I found Pilates. But I tried a bunch of different stuff like Zumba and step aerobics, and they would go left and I would go right, and I just never found movement. I did ride horses and ski when I was younger, so and I grew up running in the woods or whatever, but I just was never an athletically inclined person. So I want you to know that because now I have my Pilates certificate. I'm a Pilates teacher. I'm a certified Pilates mat teacher. I've been teaching Pilates mat for over 10 years. I got my CrossFit L1 about 5 years ago. If you don't know about CrossFit, check it out because it's pretty badass. I taught that for a few years. And I've been able to create consistency and habit in my movement and in my wellness, in my nutrition. For those of you that know me, I haven't had a drink in 13 years. And anybody that can stop drinking for 13 years has my attention, okay, automatically. Then you're going to add in the fact that they've been able to implement a wellness system when they did not have that in place when they were younger. I had no examples. I had chaos, dysfunction, and trauma was my example as a young person. So I'm letting you know we can all create new habits, and the information I am going to teach you is stuff that I have learned from, my recovery journey, my fitness journey, my nutrition journey. And then I am a researcher by nature. Like, I love rabbit holes. I'm going to teach you guys so much cool stuff. It's just going to blow your mind. I think so. So, all right. So we're going to get started. So the reason why I told you about that, about who I am, so that you can achieve these goals, right? And that I've lost and gained weight multiple times. I mean, I've had 3 kids, right? Like, I was 210 pounds when I had my first kid. It wasn't pretty. And I'm in perimenopause now. So, and I'm here to tell you, menopause, that women are going to gain weight and get weak during menopause is a lie. Okay. So we're going to talk about that later too. So the reason I told you about all of that is because we can find people who are what are called expanders. And anybody that's been to a 12-step meeting knows what an expander is. It's somebody who sits in front of you, tells you their life story, what it was like, what happened, and what it was like now. And you're like, oh, wow, I can do that. So on your fitness journey, it's, again, a dime a dozen. You want to find somebody exactly your age, your gender, that's had a fitness journey, that's lost weight, that's gotten in shape. Like, you can find a story about an 80-year-old grandma that's gone and she's deadlifting 200 pounds now, like, you can find that. So that's just the tool that you can use to change that I'm giving to you guys. So really excited. All right, so let's start out with a concept that's going to explain to you why knowing what our core beliefs, our limiting beliefs, all of these things that we're storing in our subconscious mind are so important, especially when it comes to creating a new habit, right? Or for feeling better in general. I'm going to tie that all in at the end. So the human mind, the brain is like a computer. It's like a supercomputer. You guys, everybody here is old enough to remember what real old computers were like. You had a big old tall tower, you had a hard drive, and you would bring the hard drive home, you'd plug that in, then you'd have a separate screen, and then you had your keyboard. And you turn on your computer, and that was great, but you couldn't do anything because you didn't put your disk in the computer and download the program, right? The Windows or whatever, AOL, I don't remember. But until you put those programs on the computer, you really couldn't do anything, right? So that's kind of how the brain works. It's actually exactly how the brain works. So from age 0 to 7, we are in what's called theta state. That's a hypnosis state. It's a brainwave state. And from age 0 to 7, we are absorbing everything around us. The reason nature did that is because as children, we have to absorb so many rules in order to not to be in society, right? So that was like nature's answer. From 0 to 7, we are in a theta state, in a learning state, in a hypnotic state, so that we can absorb all of this information. And the problem with that is that a lot of the information that we have stored now on our hard drive is now dysfunctional information. Not all of it. They say about 60% of our programs that we're holding on our hard drive in our brain are about our dysfunctional programs. So from 0 to 7, you're absorbing your programs from your family of origin, right? And then we go to school and we start absorbing that program. And then you absorb another set of programs at work and relationships. And we just, it's what we are absorbing in order to operate in the world. What are we deciding? We have these core beliefs. Have you ever seen the movie In and Out? They talk about core beliefs then. Okay. So here's where the interesting information comes in. So 95% of the time, 95% of your life, you are operating from your core beliefs, from your subconscious mind. They have found that that is about 90 to 90% of the time we are operating from those core beliefs that we don't know what they are, right? So when we want to change, we really want to take a look at what are some of the core beliefs that we absorbed as children, as adults, as growing up in school, body image stuff, you know, when it comes to fitness and food in particular, to movement, we want to, what do we believe to be true about our bodies? Is there a belief that we have? We're never going to be able to weigh this much, you know, we can't gain muscle. It's really hard to meal prep. I mean, those are some of the common ones. We're gonna go over the process, but you can see how when you're trying to create a new habit, it would be really important to be able to look at those core beliefs and change them, right? So how do you know what your core beliefs are? You look at your life. What is manifesting in your life? You look at your body, okay? You look at your nutrition. If you're here in this class and you're wanting to learn to change something, the way to look at what your core beliefs are to look at what your habits are, to look at what you're doing, to look at what is manifesting in your life as far as your fitness. What do you believe your body is capable of? What do you believe? And the dysfunction that we absorb from age 0 to 7 has a lot more to do with all of these behaviors and changing them. Sorry, I just lost my thought there. I'll come back to that. So how do we find the behaviors? So there's a couple different ways. We can do a timeline. This is kind of like a 4th step in 12-step programs where we kind of go through our life and kind of look at the memories that we have. Like, do you remember mom in the mirror, you know, body shaming herself or talking about how hard it is to lose weight, or, you know, a lot of these things we can say how hard it is to make money in the family of origin. You know, there's always a story. That's why the rich get richer and the poor get poorer. If you're told it's hard to make money, you're always going to struggle, you're never going to be able to afford a house, this is what you're going to believe. So you kind of want to go back through a timeline and you can look at when the behaviors and beliefs were absorbed, and you can see that, right? The other way to look at it is goals. So if you have a goal that you want to reach, but you haven't been able, like, hey, I want to lose 20 pounds. I want to gain a little bit of muscle. I want to feel good, blah, 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 whatever it is that you want to reach. So then I would ask you, okay, your goal is, I want to lose 20 pounds. Well, why haven't you? And then you would follow, well, because, or, but I want to lose 20 pounds, but losing weight is really hard. But I don't know what to do. But whatever the but is for you, that is your limiting belief. So it's really easy to kind of go in there. And I'm going to teach you at the end how we can go in and extract these beliefs and rewrite them. It's pretty cool. So, all right. Another couple concepts that are going to help you are that circumstances are neutral. And what do I mean by this? I mean by this is that we get to decide the meanings of things. That people don't like to hear this. Life is meaningless. We get to decide what has meaning. So there's also a concept called TFAR. I'll explain after that. So I'm going to use a story about President Trump getting elected to explain to you about circumstances are neutral. So circumstances are neutral. Until we think a thought, we don't have a feeling. So a lot of people that were Dems had feelings about Trump getting elected, and a lot of people who were Republicans had different feelings about Trump getting elected. Those were all based on their core beliefs, on their thoughts. But we can both agree, everybody can agree that I think that the circumstance is neutral. That you have one side that feels one way, it doesn't have a given meaning. You decide what is meaningful. And then the other thing I'm going to explain about is negative emotions. I have one more story. Okay, so negative emotions are your friend. When you start to feel negative, this is a barometer. This is telling you that the thoughts that you are thinking are negative. There's a model called TFAR. Thoughts equal feelings equal actions equal reaction. So thoughts then create the feeling. A feeling, and this blew my mind, a feeling is just a chemical reaction from a thought. So just because you feel some way doesn't mean anything. I grew up so attached to my feelings, and there's this saying, feelings aren't facts. I used to listen to people say that, and I would get irate. I'd be like, what are you talking about? This feels like a fact because you have a belief. Because that belief has been hardwired into your subconscious mind, because it's a thought, that is why you have a feeling. So if you want to change something, all you have to do is be willing to see that your beliefs are not set in stone. And also, you get to choose what you believe. Where are these beliefs coming from? Where did you absorb this at age 0 to 7, age 7 to 18? Like, when did you decide that this was going to be true for you? The problem is that this subconscious program that's running our mind, we just don't know what it is. 95% of the time, we are operating from this program. So if you think about the computer model again, right? So you got the hard drive that's running these programs, and then you've got the computer screen, which is life. And then we have the keyboard. The keyboard is the conscious mind. That is the creative mind. Now, 5% of the time, the conscious mind is in control. So 5% of the time, we are actively deciding what we want to do. But the problem is, as soon as we start thinking about something, the subconscious mind takes over. And we are thinking 95% of the time. So 95% of the time, that is why that subconscious program is playing in your brain, and why it is so important to realize when it's happening. So the reason I told you about the negative emotion and circumstances are neutral is because when you start to feel negative, that's telling you that you are having a conflict with whatever you feel and believe in your subconscious mind to be true is not aligning with what is actually true for you, for your soul, for your spirit, for your purpose. It's not aligning. I had something else about that, but maybe I'll come back to it. All right. Oh, the other story. Here's the story about how we get to choose our thoughts. This is what it is. See, I'll forget a few times. I need a sip of real tea. So I get to choose our thoughts, and those thoughts determine our feelings. Okay. So this is a story. I brought my daughter to summer camp, and I pulled in, I parked, and I walked her into camp. And as I was walking back out to my car, I see a woman pull in behind me, like sideways, like blocking my car. There's a parking spot on each side of my car. So I'm blocked in. And I'm practicing these principles in all of my affairs, right? So I'm like, oh, okay, I have a choice about what I can think about this. I'm going to think to myself that I can sit here and I can check my email, my Facebook for a minute in my car, right? And she gets to walk her kid and it's no big deal. So a minute later, she comes walking about, no big deal. I don't have a resentment. Life is beautiful. There's my choice. I had a choice in how I want to look at that, right? So then all of a sudden I see little Johnny that she dropped off is running from the pavilion back to the car. Little Johnny forgot his lunch. And I think to myself, that night, little Johnny got to get his lunch and his mom didn't pull away and everybody's happy. And this point had taken about 5 minutes, maybe more. I'm sitting there and I'm still feeling good. I'm positive. I'm thinking these thoughts. And so little Johnny gets his lunch and they pull away. And I pull out and I get to the end of the road and I look over and there's somebody who's struggling, who I've known for my whole life. They were sober for a very long time and they are not now. And it was early in the morning and they were drinking. And I pulled over and I sat and I had a 15-minute conversation with them. Now I want to ask you, now in that scenario, when that woman pulled up behind me and I saw her pull up behind me, I could have thought a lot of things. And it would have changed the trajectory of that day. Then when little Johnny walked back to get his lunch, I could have thought a lot of things, just like we do. We're driving down the road and this person does this and this person does that. We have a choice. And then do you think that if I chose to complain and to look at that situation in a different way, do you think I would have had the patience or the time to sit and talk with this person for 15 minutes when I got to the end of the road? And maybe they wouldn't even have been there then. Looked like they just pulled in. So maybe I got stuck there for a reason. And then I got a chance to share and talk to somebody else who was struggling. So I think that's a beautiful story to represent how we always have a choice in what we think. There's always something to be grateful for. There's always a way to look at something that's going to put it in a positive perspective. These concepts are going to help you apply the principles I'm going to teach to you about these other things, or the information anyway. So only 5% of the time are we consciously creating from our conscious mind. The other time, 95% of the time, it's from a set of principles. And I don't know about you, but I can tell you the set of principles that I was taught as a kid, what I absorbed was complete dysfunction, trauma, and chaos. And then, you know, that determines the message you're absorbing for the rest of your life, because what you believe, you perceive. Whatever is in your subconscious mind is what is being projected to you out onto your life. Whatever you believe to be true about the world is what you see. It's what's put on your computer screen. So that hard drive that's got all the information is putting what you see on your computer screen. It's literally, life is projected back to you based on your beliefs. That is why, look at your body, look at your bank account, look at your relationships, look at your life. That is going to show you what your beliefs are. If you're here and you want to change, you've got to be willing to say, okay, maybe I have a couple of beliefs that could use a little work. That's all you got to do. Willingness will work 95% of the time, and 5% of the time, willpower. So which one are you going to go with? I'm just going to make a decision and I'm going to do it. Okay. You let me know how that works. I know how it worked for me. Anyway. All right. We're going to move on to nutrition. All right. Hopefully some of that was new information for you. If not, you already have a good foundation. I'm going to teach you how to use it in relation to nutrition and fitness. This is exciting. So, nutrition. What do you need to know about nutrition? If there were 2 things that I would tell you about nutrition, it would be to implement intermittent fasting, or what's called time-restricted eating window, into your life. So that just means you don't eat all goddamn day. There's a reason why, and I'm going to explain to you about the gut and hormones and all of that too. So Human beings were not meant to eat all day. When we got up in the morning, you know, prior to 100 years ago or whatever, we would get up and we would have a few things to do before we would break our fast. Okay. Now, I want to talk to you about breakfast, lunch, and dinner. Breakfast, lunch, and dinner were made up by restaurants that wanted you to buy breakfast, lunch, and dinner. Breakfast is breaking your fast. How you break your fast and eating in a time restricted window are two of the most important things I'm going to tell you. So I'm going to tell you those first. Because if you just do these two things, I promise you, you will see major changes. I'm not even going to tell you you have to give up anything or change anything other than these two things, okay? So the two things are, you want to eat in a time restricted eating window. The reason you want to eat in a time restricted eating window is because when the body is digesting food, all of the energy goes into digestion. Just like when the body is stressed out, all of the energy goes into handling the stress. The energy goes from the gut into the outer limbs when we are stressed, okay? And when we are eating, the energy goes into our gut. So if we're eating all the time and we're stressed all the time, not a lot of energy for the body to repair itself. And this is what we are doing when we are fasting. A gentleman, I think it was in 2014. Anyway, he won the Nobel Prize for discovering something he termed autophagy. Autophagy is what happens after 17 hours of fasting. Stem cells start to be produced by our body. It's like our body knows how to heal itself. It's crazy. Thousands of years of ancient traditions have been fasting for 40 days and 40 nights once a year. And we're now just catching on. But I'm not telling you to fast for 40 days, by the way. But I am teaching you about why. So when we take time off from eating, it allows the body to go in and start repairing all the cells. In fact, it does miraculous things to your body, to your skin, to your muscles, to your energy. So, time restricted window. 8 to 10 hours is what I recommend. 8 to 10 hours to eat in. Okay, it can be any 8 to 10 hours. However, I will tell you this, that 8 to 10 hours ideally should be done when the sun is up. It should ideally be done when the sun is up, because once the sun goes down, the body starts producing melatonin. And when the body starts producing melatonin, insulin resistance goes up, which means the cells in your body are no longer storing that food as energy. They're going to store it all as fat. Okay. So at night when you eat, your body stores it as fat versus putting it into your cells to store as energy. So you want to create an 8 to 10 hour window, ideally, for fasting. I'm going to go into women and cyclical fasting in a minute, different types of fasting. And we'll talk about women's cycles because that is a little bit different, men and women. So in general, just across the board, if there was something I would teach you, is pick an 8 to 10 hour window within the day when there's daylight, and that would be when you eat. Eat 2 meals a day. I would stop eating 3 meals a day. So 2 meals a day and eat within an 8 to 10 hour window. Number 1. Number 2, how you break your fast is important. What breaks a fast? Anything caloric breaks a fast. So you can have coffee and you can have tea. You can't have cream. You can't have sugar. You can have water. You can have seltzer. I get up each morning. I put a little bit of salt on my tongue for that's like people drink Gatorade, right? We just need the electrolytes. So I put a little salt on my tongue and I'll drink a glass with a little bit of lemon and water. And I wait about an hour before I have any caffeine. That's recommended, but I'm just letting you know that you can have water, you can have lemon, you can have coffee, you can have tea, you can have seltzer on a fast, okay? So how you break your fast is important. So what the science is showing us is that if you eat some raw vegetables, before you break your fast. This is going to coat the inside of your, the big intestine, the large intestine, with like its fiber and its cellulose. So what it does is it prevents the body from absorbing glucose directly into the bloodstream. So that's why it's important. So this is why the French would have crudité and the Italians would have antipasti. Would have a little bit of raw vegetables about 5 or 10 minutes before you're gonna break your fast. Whatever raw vegetable you have, it doesn't matter. Cucumber, broccoli, some carrot, red pepper. It doesn't have to be a lot, just a little bit before you break your fast. Okay. Then you're going to want to eat something savory. So not sweet, not breads, not bagels, not oatmeal, not fruit. You want something savory. You want eggs, you want chicken, you want steak. Avocado also, I could have some avocado I eat eggs every single day. We're going to talk about fats and all that. So 2 things, 8 to 10 hour feeding window, and then how you break your fast. You're going to just eat a little bit of raw veggies and then protein, savory, cheese. You can have dairy and stuff like that too. I'll have eggs, I'll have dairy. We'll talk about all that stuff in a minute, but those are the basics. So, let's talk about fasting, different types of fasting. So that's called intermittent fasting when you have an 8 to 10 hour window. Now, the next type of fasting I would encourage is twice a year, I do a 72-hour water fast. So after 17 hours of fasting, which isn't that long, your body starts creating stem cells. The other thing it does is after 12 hours of not eating is your body goes into ketosis, which is what people who do the keto diet do. We're going to talk about that more. So it starts burning fat. After 12 hours of not eating, your body starts burning fat and it starts making stem cells for free. So it's like automatically your body is repairing itself and it's burning fat just from stopping eating for a short period of time, giving your body a chance to repair itself. You're taking all the energy away from the digestion, right? So you can do at 72 hours, they have found that the body gets flooded with stem cells. I mean, cancerous tissue, cysts, necrotic tissue, inflammation. If somebody came to me, a client came to me and said, I have cancer, I have a chronic autoimmune disease, or I'm obese and I would want to lose weight, I would say, talk to your doctor first, but this is what I'm going to tell you to do. You're going to stop eating. There are supplements you can take, but there are people who have fasted for over a year. Not eating is not going to kill you. Again, I am not a doctor. So you would do this under a long-term fast. If you were obese, you would do under your doctor's care. Anything under 72 hours, I'm not going to tell anybody it's okay, because always check with your doctor. But I think they're very safe. And there's different ways to end that fast. I'm not going to go into that much information about it other than to tell you about it. If that's something you're interested in, I can teach you more about that later. Okay, let's talk about sugar. Sugar. So if you are going to eat something sugary, and you might not want to after I tell you all this information, but let's start with if you want to, because I'm not a Nazi. And my rule is 80% of the time I eat healthy, 20% of the time I will eat less than healthy. So that's different for different people, but let's talk about sugar. So let's say you love your yogurt with a little bit of honey or maple syrup, because if you're going to eat yogurt, that's what you should be eating. Or if you want oatmeal with some milk and stuff after you have your eggs for breakfast, that's fine after you have your little bit of veggies and your protein and your fat. Then you could have a little bit of whole fruit. You could have a little bit of yogurt with honey. You could have a little bit of this. Same thing with dessert. I love ice cream. And one of the ways I validate that is because it also has protein in it and it's got dairy. So after I eat dinner, if I want something sweet, I will have ice cream usually. The other thing we're going to talk about is, let's finish about sugar. Let's finish about sugar. So that's when you can eat sugar. However, do you want to eat sugar? Let's talk about a process called glycation that our government has known about for 70 years. So when you eat a teaspoon or more of sugar, and I'm not talking about a banana or eating some blueberries. What I'm talking about is processed sugary foods. So it could be a candy bar, could be ice cream, could be anything high with a high glucose. It could be a lot of pasta. It could be all of these other things. So anything like that with over a teaspoon of sugar in that you're eating it, what happens is it crosses the blood-brain barrier. So what do I mean by that? Is that anything you eat with a teaspoon or more of sugar instantly crosses the blood-brain barrier, sends a message to your immune system, actually goes right into your bone marrow, which is where blood cells, white blood cells are produced, and you stop producing white blood cells. As soon as you eat a teaspoon of sugar, your immune system stops functioning. Also, your bones get glycated. So what happens, they look at a baby that's born, their bones are very white. And as we get older, our bones get brown. You can see this as people age. It's called glycation. So we are actually cooking our bones by eating sugar. Sugar in the eye is called glaucoma. Sugar in the blood is called diabetes. Sugar in the brain is dementia and Alzheimer's. Sugar is more potent than any drug on the planet, the way it affects the brain, more addictive than crack or cocaine. Okay, so I've recently really started to pull back on sugar. Also, sugar really messes up your skin. It's really bad for your skin. So I just told you all the reasons not to. If you decide to eat sugar, eat it after you've broken your fast or eaten your dinner. All right, so there we go from there. All right, again, 80-20, right? So 80-20, we want to be eating whole foods. What are whole foods? Whole foods are foods with one ingredient. They're not going to have a label. Okay, so anything processed that has more than one ingredient is not a whole food. A whole food is chicken, beef, pork, fish, cheese. Well, cheese might have whatever, but we're going to talk about dairy and fat in a minute. Milk, vegetables, rice, potato, all of that. I don't think I need to keep going on, but if you have to look at it and it has a label, it's not a whole food. Okay, so 80% of the time we want to be eating whole foods. Does that mean they can't be delicious and savory? No, that does not mean that. So let's talk about fat. Fat is not the enemy, okay? We already talked about sugar. I'm not going to go on about it. I don't want to give anybody a complex if they want to enjoy their ice cream later. But what the keto diet has shown us is that fat is not the enemy. What they have discovered is after 12 hours of fasting. Ooh, my computer's not plugged in. Hold on one second. We gotta go for the. So, all right. What they discovered is after 12 hours of fasting, the body goes into ketosis. So it starts burning fat. We already talked about that. So that's what happens in the keto diet. You're not eating any carbs. And a lot of time people will, in order to see if they're in ketosis, they will take a little stick and measure the ketones in their urine. As my body's still in ketosis, I'm measuring whether the amount of carbs that I'm getting in my body are still keeping my body in an active state of ketosis where I'm burning fat. So that is why the keto diet works. You can also achieve the same thing just through cyclical fasting, through having a time restricted feeding window. Obviously, the longer you fast, the more fat that is going to be burned. You can burn massive amounts of fat pretty quickly by fasting. Okay, so let's talk about the grocery store. You may have heard this, you may have not. When I heard it, I had never heard it before, so I'm going to share it. When you are shopping in the grocery store, you want to stay around the perimeter of the store. You want to go in where the vegetables are, where the meat is, and where the dairy is, and then you want to leave. You don't want to go in and out of all the aisles. If there's something you need to get, grab it, but otherwise it's not food. Anything on the inside of the store is not food. So dairy, meat, vegetables. I am a big fan of full fat dairy. I drink raw milk. I eat sour cream. I eat full fat yogurt. I eat a lot of butter. Let's talk about seed oils. Canola, vegetable oil, grapeseed oil, anything in a spray can. You should be using avocado oil for cooking, olive oil, ghee, butter. These are the types of oils they're telling us are healthy and good for us to eat. Okay, so let's see. Calories in, calories out is not actually a thing. So I don't count calories. I don't weigh and measure my food. That's not the way I want to live. I teach intuitive nutrition. So calories in, calories out is not a thing. It matters what you eat. I always try to focus on protein first. However, I don't count how many grams of protein I'm eating in a day. When it comes to knowing what you want to eat, you need to just follow your excitement, okay? Whatever foods you feel excited about eating, those are the foods you should be eating. You should never force yourself to eat things you don't like. I don't like kale. I don't try to like kale. Maybe that's a limiting belief I need to reprogram. I don't know. But my point is this: don't give up anything you love unless you really want to. And don't make yourself eat anything you hate. It's not going to work. Okay. Let's go on to movement. Oh, this is going to be perfect. For like an hour. Okay. So movement is so funny because I feel like that's where everybody's like, all right, 2025, ready to get in shape. What's the first thing you're going to do? You know, you're going to go to the gym, which is the first thing I did when I wanted to get in shape. And what I'm learning is that your mindset is much more important than, not then, but mindset and nutrition are the foundation of fitness. What you think about yourself while you're eating your food is important. If I have ice cream, I enjoy that ice cream. I relish it. I love it. If you are telling yourself negative thoughts while you are eating food about what that food is going to do to you, it is affecting your body. Another concept I'm just going to come back to really quick is that consciousness, the thoughts that we think, are what are creating our perception. They're also what are creating your body. What you feel about yourself is held in the body. The Body Keeps Score is a very famous book. But what you tell yourself about the food you eat and how it's going to affect you is important. So make sure you start paying attention to that story. And again, the way you catch yourself is those negative thoughts. I start to have that negative feeling. Oh, what was I just thinking about, right? The negative feeling comes from the negative thought. So that negative feeling is your friend, especially when it comes to food and when it comes to fitness, okay? These are going to be your indicators that the thought that you have is not aligning with the truth. So if you start to feel really negative when you're eating something or you're having thoughts about food in general, realize thoughts aren't facts. They're based on a belief. You can stop your thinking, you can slow it down, right? And retrain the brain. So let's talk about know thyself. So how do we find what movements are right for us? This again, for me, was a real struggle to find movement, and I feel like it's where most of us head to. So here's the good news. Movement should be the easiest and most exciting a part of this journey because to me, movement is spirit. So it's about mind, then body, which is nutrition, and then spirit. So mindset, nutrition, movement. And our movement comes from our spirit. How do we know what movement is right for us? We have to know ourselves. So I'm a Pilates instructor and I teach classes, and I'm a CrossFit instructor, and I'm here to tell you that it doesn't matter what kind of movement you do. So hopefully that's going to give you some freedom now, because I feel like so much are like, I don't know what to eat. I don't know how to eat it. Well, I just told you, you have no excuses. I don't know what kind of exercise to do. You don't know. You don't need to. You don't need to. But I'm gonna give you more information than that. But I feel like that should be like your permission slip. So how do we know ourselves and how do we get to know what type of movements are going to work for us? So a couple different ways we can get to know ourselves. The number one I recommend is finding out your core needs and your personality needs. Everybody has core needs. There's 6 of them, Maslow's hierarchy of needs, but they're all in a different order. And if you can find out what order your core needs are, you're going to be able to figure out what type of exercise is going to work for you in relation to filling those core needs, those personality needs. The other thing we can do is take personality tests. Are you an extrovert? Are you an introvert? How do you want to exercise around people? Do you not want to exercise around people? Exercise can be things that come naturally to us. They can be walking, they can be dancing. So let's talk about exercise and what the best forms are in the sense of what you want to be achieving for your body. So we want to keep our bones under pressure. We want to be either underweight, and there's a few ways you can do this. Dancing, moving our body like that puts our bones under pressure. Okay. Jujitsu, karate, lifting weights, yoga, anything body weight. It doesn't have to be lifting bodybuilding, So you really have a slew. Nobody's like, you have to. I feel like with exercise, the block is always like, I have to work out 30 to 60, 90 minutes a day, 30 to 60 minutes a day, right? I have to do it every day. And if I don't do it, then it's not working. Like, that's not true. The truth is, what you think about your body, what you think about yourself, about the food that you're eating, about all of this stuff is more important than how you're moving your body. You cannot exercise your way out of an unhealthy diet. Okay. And I'm here to tell you that if you apply these principles that I've been teaching you to your fitness journey, you're going to get there way quicker and it's going to be easier. So core needs, personality test. Those can tell you some basic indicators of, if you don't know these things already, how to then take those. And this is something I do with my clients and figure out what movements work best for them. Okay, let's talk about stretching and somatic workouts and why that's important to understand. So I have a daily, not always daily, I'm going to be honest, but pretty much daily I stretch. I exercise 2 to 3 times a week and it's not crazy. I don't count calories and I don't weigh and measure my food and I've been able to maintain my weight. I've been cyclical fasting for 5 years and this is what I do. I do a little bit of stretching every day, and that stretching are stretches that I've memorized that while I'm doing them, I'm relaxing. So it's important that while you're stretching or whatever you're doing, whatever movement you're doing, it's important that you love it. You have to like doing it. That's why I'm telling you to know yourself. If you're doing something you love, you're going to be feeling good while you're doing it. And we're going to talk about discipline and motivation really quick while we're right there. Is what's the difference between discipline and motivation? So, and this is going to be helpful with the food stuff too, and in following the path, staying on the path. So when we are talking about discipline and motivation, it's important to understand that motivation, something you are motivated to do, is something you feel joyful and excited about. Yeah, I'm motivated to do that. Discipline is when you have the energy, you can make yourself find the energy to do the thing you are motivated to doing when you don't have the energy to do it. You cannot discipline yourself into doing something that you feel no joy or passion towards. So when you are deciding the foods that you are going to eat and how you're going to eat them, what order you're going to eat them in, what time and what window, make sure it works for you. This is not a one size fits all. This is intuitive nutrition. This is intuitive fitness. Okay. So make sure the exercise and the movement you're doing feels good for your body. I can't tell you how many times I've done classes with people with stretching where I can just look at them and I can tell they're not relaxing while they're stretching. That's why somatic exercises have become so big lately, is that the point is when you are stretching or doing somatic exercises, you are relaxing. You are finding a position for your body. Maybe you don't have as much mobility as a yogi. So some of those positions aren't going to feel good to you. Don't just keep doing yoga and stretches and somatic movements when they're not comfortable for your body. It's got to be something that speaks to your soul and that you can relax. It's meditative. It is meditative, actually. And we're going to get to that. So there, lifting weights. I love lifting weights and I love Pilates because they are a very controlled movement. It's slow, it's controlled, it's purposeful. I don't do I do dumbbell workouts. This is what I do. I stretch 3 or 4 times a week. I do Pilates twice a week, maybe so I'll stretch 5 or 10 minutes, 3 or 4 times a week. I'll do Pilates maybe 10 or 15 minutes twice a week. And then I'll work out with weights 2 to 3 times a week. And the weights, while I'm doing them, are maybe, 20, 25 minutes. So twice a week, I work out for 2 hours and then I stretch a little in between. That's it. I don't weigh and measure my food, and I don't count calories, and I don't work out like a wacko. This is regular rules for regular people. I am here to tell you that if you implement these things, you are going to change your life. You're going to change your eating habits and you're going to change your fitness habits. So follow your excitement when it comes to the foods you eat and the movements you do. All right, we're almost ready to wrap up. Okay, so here's the important part. So this is what I want to tell you, is that your health is in your hands. Your genes do not dictate what is going to happen to you. There's a study of science called epigenetics. In case this is a new term, I'll explain it to you. So what epigenetics tells us is that our genes are responsible for less than 1%. Our genes are responsible for less than 1% of illness. And the rest is all lifestyle. And by lifestyle, I don't just mean exercising and nutrition. I mean the thoughts that you are thinking. The thoughts that you are thinking are creating disease. They are making you fat. They are making you sick. So they're really important to go in and access. And I'm going to tell you right now how to do that. This is the key. We're going to put it all together right now. So how do we reprogram our thoughts? There's a few ways. It's pretty easy. You could go to a therapist and do cognitive behavior therapy. You could go to a hypnotherapist who does neuro-linguistic programming, or you can do it yourself. Right? That's what we're all about here, sovereignty. We're going to teach you guys how to do this yourself. So how? So you heard me earlier talk about theta brainwave state, which is something children are naturally in from age 0 to 7. It's also a state that we go into naturally, periodically throughout the day. There's a lot of different brainwave states. I'm just going to keep it on this one. So before you go to bed and before you drift off to sleep, and right when you wake up, you are also in theta state. So prime time to reprogram your brain. So some people will just, right when they're going to sleep or right when they're getting up, they'll take a few 5-10 minutes and they will tell themselves a story that they want to start telling themselves. They'll start reprogramming their brain. So that's kind of the simplest one. The other thing people will do is self-hypnosis. So they'll wear headphones at night. You'll get a program. There's a million self-help or affirmation ones, and you'll put it on right before you fall asleep. And it's only a short time before you go to a different brainwave state, but each night you're reprogramming your brain. So if it's something about weight loss, if it's something about food, if you know you have those blocks, right, you can get a program or buy affirmations or subliminals and wear it, and it'll reprogram your brain for you. That's great. So then the other thing is habit. Habit. the reason why habit, so after age 7, obviously there are points throughout our day where when our right brain and our left brain are working together and we're attaching a feeling to it, this is when we create new subconscious memories. So we can do this through creating new habits, learning to speak new languages, learning to play new instruments, learning to do new movements. Repetition is going to create new patterns, okay? But if we're talking about undoing old patterns, this is what I want to tell you about. This is the method I use. So the method I use is, once I have identified the limiting belief that I have and the new belief I want to program in, is I will get into a meditative state. And I want to talk to you about meditative state and what that is, because a lot of people get lost in meditation. So all meditation is slowing down your breathing and making your body feel safe. The thing you need to know is that you cannot reprogram your thoughts unless you're in theta state. And you cannot be in theta state if you don't feel safe. Okay? So when we meditate, we close our eyes, we relax our bodies, and we start to breathe slowly. And the only time you would do that in real life is if you felt safe. So what I'll do is I'll get into a comfortable position and I'll close my eyes and I'll start to breathe. And what you want to do is you want to cross your ankles and you want to cross your arms, because this crosses the right and the left hemisphere. So while you're sitting up, you want to cross your ankles and you want to cross your arms. And you want to generate, so you want to create heart and mind coherence. So you're crossing your hands, you're crossing your feet, and you're going to create what's called heart and mind coherence, heart-brain coherence. Joe Dispenza talks about this a lot. So what heart-mind coherence is, when the thought I am visualizing, so I'm reprogramming the new thought in my brain, and the way I reprogram thoughts is I do a mental rehearsal. I will imagine the thing that I want. I will assume the feeling of the wish fulfilled. I will picture in my mind a mental rehearsal of the new habit, behavior, thing I want to achieve. Whatever that thing is, I will visualize it in my mind, and I will create the feeling in my heart while my eyes are closed of the feeling I have when I think I'll get that thing. See, the thing is, we think that when we get the external thing, when we weigh less, when we're fit, that's when we will be happy or when we'll feel better. But the problem is with life is that life is like a mirror, right? Life is a computer. And if we don't have that programmed installed on the hard drive, we aren't going to see it on the screen. So when we realize that the external circumstance is neutral and that is not what is truly bringing us happiness, it is not. The thing is not going to bring you happiness. When we realize that, we also realize, we come to the point in this where we're almost at the end, where I can tell you that when we are reprogramming our thoughts, there's two main areas that most people need to focus on. Actually, 90% of the people. 90% of people have a lack of self-love for themselves, and 90% of people have a lack of feeling safe. So these are the two main thoughts I tell my clients to start with, is learning how to create a sense of value and loving yourself with your thoughts, with this brain-heart coherence, and to also create a feeling of safety within your body, because those are the two things that people are usually looking for. And once you start implementing all of these techniques, you're going to find that you're going to get all the things that you want. All the things are going to happen. You're going to lose the weight. You're going to lose fit. And that if you can find that feeling and attach it to the thing and realize that you can create your own feeling of happiness, self-worth, and safety now, you're going to be happier along the way, right? You're going to realize that when you start to feel negative, or here's the other one. How do these things show up for us in our life? They are going to show up for us, our life, our negative, our limiting beliefs The subconscious program is going to show up when we have triggers. Triggers are there to show us that we have a limiting belief that is not in alignment with our true self. Judgment, when we are judging others, that is going to show us when we are not in alignment with our true self. So those are another two more indicators. And then that negative feeling. When we start to have a negative feeling, we realize it's a negative thought. We have a choice in how we think. We can tell ourselves a new story. We now have a way to reprogram our brain. We know what to eat. We know how to move. And I feel like that's the secret to life. I'm going to go ahead and pause the recording. And if anybody has any questions, they can ask me.